All right, Bulls and Bears, the clown show is about ready to get even crazier. We've got a partial government shutdown possibly beginning at 11:59 p.m. on Friday. That's going to be March 14th. What implications will there be? Will it affect you? And should you prepare for it, or is it a nothing burger? We're going to get into it here. We got some people out there threatening a shutdown, and we're going to see how that plays out. We've got the CPI numbers. We're going to go over that. All kinds of economic, financial news to get caught up on. Let's go ahead and get started. Please make sure you are subscribed to keep this channel alive. Let's go ahead and get started right here. And let's start with this headline out of Fortune. CEOs are saying they're getting not tired. They're losing faith in the current administration. They're saying they don't believe the promises that are being put out there with the promises that, yeah, there's going to be layoffs, there's going to be tough economic times, but it's going to be better on the other side. Those are basically the promises out of the current administration. Well, CEOs say that they're losing faith in all that talking. And basically what they're pointing out here is there's a Yale CEO caucus leader named Diane Brady saying that corporate leaders are, quote, miserable about the current administration's trade program, talking about the tariffs. Well, we've had tariffs against the U.S. for a while, and other countries haven't imploded completely because of those tariffs. So I doubt if these tariffs are going to make the U.S. implode, but people are concerned about higher prices. Now, when you look at the debt levels of consumers right now, you can definitely see the concern. How much more can people take? How much more debt can people take on and still be able to keep their head above water financially, keep making those minimum payments, preferably paying off your credit card in full each month, but at least making the minimum payments. But if you just make the minimum payments, you're on your way to bankruptcy ultimately. So we'll see how it plays out, folks. But are the CEOs tired of it? That's what's being reported here out of Fortune. Also, we're supposed to be cutting spending, but it looks like we're actually trying to increase the debt ceiling by another $4 trillion, folks. I mean, you can't make this stuff up here. Leaders are pushing senators on the debt ceiling increase. I believe it's $4 trillion here. Let me just check it out here. Extending the tax cuts and a measure that would raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion, folks. So are they really cutting spending, or are they just spending it in a different place, handing it out to different people? Who knows? But let's talk about the possibility of a shutdown. Is it a big deal? Will it even happen? Well, let's take a look at some information on that. Well, here's how it's being reported here. Government shutdown likely after some politicians are going to block this funding bill. If it doesn't get passed, if there is a shutdown, it will be a partial shutdown. And that's pretty much a nothing burger. You'll see some parks close down. You might see some delays in some services. But the big problems will only come up when, one, people get their credit cards cut off or they can't go deeper into debt. That'll be a big problem. Two, Social Security checks stop going out. Or three, other benefit packages stop going out, like food programs and unemployment, things like that, right? All the freebies. So those are the big things that would cause problems. And you're talking about, an 80-year-old coming into your house trying to steal your canned goods because she's not getting her Social Security check, right? So that might be something to look out for. But this partial government shutdown, we've seen this happen many, many times, and it's pretty much a nothing burger. But will it lead to something bigger, and maybe a prolonged shutdown, and then possibly a complete shutdown? I mean, I really, really doubt it, right? There's people out there saying, get ready, it's going to happen, and this is going to trigger the collapse. I have people telling me that this is going to be used as the excuse to finally pull the plug on this bubble debt-based economy. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. I mean, after 2020, would you ever even question what wasn't and what was possible anymore? I mean, anything goes. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Am I putting away some canned goods? Sure, I always keep canned goods, a few extra ones there. Then when they expire, you go through the old ones, and you always get ready for something crazy to happen, but I wouldn't hunker down in a corner or hide under the blankets or anything like that. Now, here's why I don't think they're going to shut it down, because when you shut it down, then the president then has the ultimate authority to say what's essential, what stays open, what doesn't stay open. That's who then decides what's essential and what's not essential. So, of course, you're still going to have all the looking into the books of all these institutions, all these agencies, and we know some people out there are trying to stop that. Other people are for it, but other people are trying to stop that, right? So it's really not going to matter much. Ultimately, it's going to actually give more power to the president when you look at it, because if things happen this time the way they've happened in the past, the president has the authority to say what stays and what gets shut down. All right, moving on here, folks, on the state of the U.S. consumer, we have American Eagle out there basically saying the consumer is slowing down, and they issued weak guidance. I don't think I've bought anything at American Eagle in maybe 15 years, if that, maybe even 20 years. The first quarter is off to a slower start than expected. Of course, you've got all this uncertainty right now. Remember, it started off as all this euphoria, and people were all optimistic when November happened, and then December, and then we started talking about tariffs, and we've been hearing about that for a few months now. All these news outlets now saying that prices are definitely going to rise, and I think prices will rise. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I've said that here, not just the past few months, but for a long time. So now consumers are really, really pulling back. Not really pulling back, not a dramatic pullback, but you see many different places. Even Walmart came out and said the consumers being much more selective, and we're starting to see a slowdown basically in consumer activity. Are people still running up debt? Yes. Are people still spending? Yes, but it's starting to slow down. Now, there's been a couple theories on that. One theory is just what we talked about. People are kind of concerned and scared. They see all the layoffs. And the people that are getting laid off, of course, they're likely, or they're definitely the ones that are slowing down for sure. There's that theory. And then there's the theory that basically the debt is just too high, and that people are getting their credit cards maxed out. We saw an article, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, a couple months ago anyways, that said 1 in 5 credit cards were maxed out. If that were actually true, I would think we'd see a much more dramatic slowdown in spending, right? So we'll see how this plays out, folks. But we've got another warning out there, American Eagle. What do you think about that? And actually, one more thing about American Eagle. I think the mall that's nearest me, the American Eagle, completely shut down. So they've been doing not so well for some time as far as I can see here. All right, moving on here, Bulls and Bears. Another month, another record budget deficit. So where is the cost cutting? Why are we still running these $1 trillion deficits and setting new records each month, right? Some say it's going to take a while to play out. Other people are saying, well, we should have seen some changes right now in the spending, but we see the debt is still accumulating. It doesn't look like any slowdown. And of course, they're trying to pass another $4 trillion in debt. So what does that tell you right there? Another $4 trillion rather in the debt ceiling. So that should tell you all you need to know right there. And we've got Canada and the EU out there both saying they're putting on reciprocal tariffs right now on items being shipped into the U.S., namely reciprocal tariffs of 25% on steel products. And they're also going to raise taxes on a host of items from tools to computers and servers, display monitors, sports equipment, cast iron products, and more. Now remember, if we weren't outsourcing for decades, all this wouldn't matter. These tariffs wouldn't matter because we'd be manufacturing things here in the U.S. But we don't manufacture things here anymore. I mean, a little bit, but not like we used to. Because the cost of living, companies don't want to pay the high wages that people demand here in the U.S. And we have to go back to the record number of strikes that we saw last year. And this year will likely set another record unless something changes and you really do see the cost of living come down. It's going to be another record year for people going on strike, demanding higher wages. What kind of company wants to bring their business to the shores or onto the land of a country that has all these strikes and people demanding higher wages? They don't. So it's going to be very difficult for these companies, I think, to bring jobs back. And will the tariffs scare some companies back in here? Well, there's a few announcements that some manufacturing is coming back. Will it be enough to make a noticeable dent? Or will these just be jobs that keep people grinding, living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by, stressed out about their next rent or mortgage payment? To me, that seems like what it's going to be, even if jobs do come back. Hate to sound doomish and gloomish, but that's just what we've seen here. And we're not seeing any real big changes in order for the trajectory of that to really go in any other direction, right? It's going to continue to get worse unless something drastic happen, right? But I always have to remind people when I say stuff like that, I don't mean it's going to get worse for everybody. There's a few people that are doing better than ever. Look at the top 10%. We just found out a few days ago that now the top 10% own 93% of the entire stock market. So there's people out there getting the money. People that work within the financial system typically do the best, or the people at the top of companies, I should say, because that's where the money typically goes. You notice the more debt gets put out there, the more debt gets run up by consumers, and even the national debt, the wealth continue to get wealthier. Even the people that get a stimulus check, or the people that got the stimulus checks, most of the time they're going out and spending it at a grocery store where it's owned at the top by a multi-billionaire. You go out and spend it most of the time, unless you're just going to a small business. Most of the time you're making someone that's already wealthy much wealthier, right? That's why you've heard people say, go to small businesses, support small businesses, because the chains and everything else that's not a small business, those are ran by, in most cases, multi-billion-dollar companies and mega filthy rich CEOs. All right, moving on here. Today on Wednesday, March 12th, stocks stopped dropping. Not much of a recovery. You saw 1.2% green day in the NASDAQ. You saw slight red in the Dow Jones. S&P 500 down, or up rather, about 0.5%. So not a big recovery, but at least it stopped dropping. So we'll see how this plays out. I've said here that it's the people at the top that control the stock market, the elites, the mega wealthy, the billionaires. When they stop selling off, then we'll see the markets correct. And when they start buying stocks back, we'll see them correct. Or we could have the plunge protection team come in. It depends on, what type of plans the market makers have for the markets right now at this point. Remember, it's completely run by the individuals with the most money. A new report out here on egg prices. Egg prices continue to hit records, and we haven't even gotten to Easter yet. Folks, don't use real eggs. Don't spend $4, $5, $6, $7, $8. I actually saw $4 eggs here in California at a place called Trader Joe's. But if you're someone that has kids or whatever, colors eggs, are you going to use the real eggs? That would be kind of a waste. Or maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you're an adult coloring eggs, even without kids. That's kind of weird, but maybe some of you are out there. Also, something big that we found out here just recently. We just found out that over 1,600 banks had to utilize the Fed, or the central bank's emergency lending program, when we saw the banks fail, when a few banks failed or got taken over or got rescued, whatever you want to call it. 1,600 banks, folks, had to use emergency lending programs. So what does that tell you about the banks, right? The banks are basically running on fumes. They're loaning out money they don't have. It takes constant liquidity injections to keep these banks operational. It takes a changing of the regulation that banks used to have some money in deposits to be able to loan it out. Well, they've changed that since 2020. At that time, they called it an emergency rescue program for the economy. Well, they haven't backed off of that. It's still in place right now. So we're still under emergency measures right now in this economy. What was implemented in 2020 and called an emergency response to the health crisis is still in place right now. That's why you see debt levels continue to explode. And you see home prices elevated. Car prices aren't really coming down like people thought. It's because of the money spigot has been turned on full blast. And until they slow that down, you're really not going to see much change. You'll continue to see prices get higher and the cost of living get higher with inflation up again with the recent CPI number. Let's go ahead and get into that. The overall consumer price index, commonly referred to as the CPI, rose by 0.22%. And if you annualize that, that's about 2.6% in February from January. That was after a jump of 0.7% or 0.47%, which is 5.75 annualized in January from December. That had been the worst month-to-month increase since August 2023. So we're being told that there's this deceleration or this slowdown in inflation. But anytime the word inflation is even in the topic, its prices are going up. The question is, are they going up faster or slower? Well, they're going up. That's the bottom line. And that's what we don't need that to happen. We need prices to come down. We need price levels to come down. But you rarely see any report on actual price levels, right? When it comes to the CPI number, it's all about if prices are going up, are they going up more slowly or not? But the mainstream number, the official number that's put out there, we're up 2.8% year over year. So prices again went up almost 3%. Now that's the official number. Is it much worse in the real world? Of course. Yeah, look at eggs. Look at the cost of food. I mean, the cost of food is, I think it's much higher than just 3% from last year, just the places I've been shopping. I think most of you would actually agree on that as well. And it's also being reported at the Post and some other publications are saying that Social Security, because of the cuts that are happening right now, are going to either shut down or decrease the phone service availability to Social Security recipients. This is the phone line that these 73-something million people rely on if they have questions or if they call in about some concerns. And also it's being reported that that's even the line that many people would call to file for disability claims and filing for retirement benefits. All right, so again, be careful. You're going to have Granny maybe knocking on your door, breaking through your window, trying to loot your canned goods out of your cupboard. And I guess there's a little bit of good news scattered in here, folks. Oil prices come down a little bit now, dropping further below that $68 mark. We're down to about 67 as of this recording. All right, now let's move on to an even more dire warning here. That's the education secretary out there saying that mass layoffs are the first step towards total shutdown. That's what she said, total shutdown. What does she mean by that? Well, it's not as extreme as it sounds. She just means a total shutdown of the Department of Education. She says, actually, it is a step towards total shutdown. That's what the leader is implementing. Quote, his directive to me clearly is to shut down the Department of Education, which we know will have to work with Congress, to get that accomplished. Now, we know that department's already shut down or already let go of about half of its workers. That was over 1,300 people. And that's just one of the many agencies we're seeing big drastic cuts take place, right? So if these people don't get their benefits or if they don't get their severance packages, that's when the trouble really begins. The same as, like I said earlier, if the credit cards get shut off or people can't go further into debt, if the banks get held to some sort of pre-2020 standard where they have to have some money in deposits in order to loan out money, if any of these things are stopped or even reversed, then that's when you really see hit the fan. So again, I don't think they're going to let something that drastic happen. There has to be some sort of black swan or some other situation that comes out of nowhere, like a surprise situation that I think is really going to shut this thing down and really have real panic. Not the panic that we're seeing now, but real panic where you see the Dow Jones down, 1,500 points in a day, something like that. Also, we have airlines out there now cutting their forecast. 4 major U.S. airlines just cut their forecast, citing a dip in consumer confidence and economic uncertainty. So we're seeing a lot of these pessimistic calls on the economy. Are they overhyped, or are we headed into something that we haven't seen in a long time as far as this economy? Please let me know your thoughts on any of this down in comments, folks. The threat of the shutdown, the partial government shutdown, we've seen these before. They'll close some parks. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off the mark, but I think it's a nothing burger. And I don't even think it's really going to amount to anything. Or if you want to go the really dark forecast that some people are putting out there, this is going to be used as the excuse to bring down this house of cards, to bring down this bubble debt-based economy. Who knows, right? Who knows? Prepare for both. Grab your popcorn. Like I said at the beginning, the clown shows getting crazier, folks. So please make sure you're subscribed right here again, this button, and come back for more news and updates. We're going to keep you up to date as always. As always, keep stacking, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.